You are listening to the Push Media Podcast Network.
This is good shit.
I know I laced it with blood.
Picture me rolling in a non-electric vehicle, ruining the planet, just riding around real dirty. Chameleonaire not far behind. And I see a sign. I see a sign that says, Trans Beer. In South Philadelphia, I look up and I see a sign that says, Trans Beer. I mean, does anyone know which way is up anymore? And I'm not saying it's wrong. Anyone can be called whatever they want. I'll call you the rightful king of Thebes if it makes you feel happy. But I mean, like, how are we even, from a logistical standpoint, supposed to keep up on this anymore? We just traded the Merchant of Death, is his nickname at least, for a WNBA player who, when he got back to Russia, immediately said the hardest part of being in an American prison was keeping track of how many genders there are in America. 72, in case you were wondering. And all 72 of them, I have a spot. You can go get a beer in South Philadelphia. And I'm at a red light having all of these thoughts in my head. And then I inch up just a little tiny bit because, you know, the car ahead of me inched up. That's how driving works. And I notice an apostrophe in the sign. I notice an apostrophe in trans beer. I notice an apostrophe as in not transgender beer, as in Vietnamese family of immigrants with an entrepreneurial spirit starting a business in America. Apostrophe S beer. Do you see what I mean? It wasn't a bar offering trans beer, offering beer for transgendered patrons, or just specifically selling trans beer, whatever that may be, because then what is trans beer? Is trans beer just soda? Or do you have to ask the bartender, what does he feel like serving that day in that very specific moment in time? Is it a beer? Is it a soda? I don't know. Let's just not hurt the drink's feelings. But I do know this. Whether your beer is trans, gay, straight, soda, or just a beer, you better order it in English. This is America. This is South Philadelphia. Go get a cheesesteak, build the wall. Bet you didn't see the ending of that story. So that's really all that happened in my head at a red light. This entire tete-a-tete in my mind for nobody was based in nothing. Really all just my inability to see a bit of grammar on a sign. And, you know, shout out the Tran family, which is, of course, Vietnamese for the original Asian surname, Chin. And that's real. And I bet you weren't expecting me to have that ready either. I had to have that handy to back that one up, because this actually happened. Trans beer. Trans beer's just really soda, and Mormons are just ugly Scientologists. And isn't it a shame that most things in life are not that simple, are not that cut and dry, are not as plain and obvious as the statement, Mormons are just ugly Scientologists? Don't even think about it. I can sense some of you are starting to analyze that statement. I am telling you, don't. I've already done it for you. I can assure you, without a shadow of a doubt, Mormons are ugly Scientologists. That is done for you. That is a simple thought. You can now go the rest of your life never having to devote any brain power to, are Mormons ugly Scientologists? Oh, yeah, they actually are. Look at them. They're ugly Scientologists. Now, there are other things in life that are not that clear, cut and dry, plain and simple, bud. To quote The Breakfast Club, not that simple, bud. Some things are up for debate. Some things are not black and white. Some things are a mixture of black and white. Some things are very tall, mixed lesbians who are black and white who play in the WNBA. How about that for a transition? Brittany Griner. So Brittany Griner, draft day for her. She was a first-round selection for America, and Russia had a first-round selection for the Merchant of Death. And if the Merchant of Death being your nickname is not enough of an accomplishment in your life to instill fear in others, he also had Nicolas Cage play him in a movie. Now I ask you, is there any such a higher honor? For one. And two, if Nicolas Cage hears your story and thinks this is crazy enough for me to partake in, you have done some shit, my friend. You have done some shit. Now, there's been debate back and forth about, is it right that we traded a man who has undoubtedly contributed to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, I think is a safe bet, armed child soldiers in the Congo, and has essentially profited off of the machinery and machinations involved in gruesome violence. Now, we got a WNBA player. Not bad, not too shabby, if I do say so myself. I think this is a win. I think we should all go celebrate and have a trans beer. We traded the Merchant of Death, not a big deal. It was actually a steal. I'm talking like, boy, did we hoodwink Russia. We got a WNBA player back. We got a WNBA player back. We got a WNBA player back. Are you hearing the WNBA part of WNBA player back? I don't think I have ever even accidentally met someone who's watched a WNBA game. And I'm not even qualifying this hypothetical as I was discussing basketball with a stranger. This is not limited to to those types of experiences. I don't think I've ever accidentally met someone who closetedly, by accident once, fell asleep with the TV on a WNBA game. Does anyone watch the WNBA game? Absolutely not. The only people that do are lesbians that don't have a lot of fun, couldn't make the team, but their significant other did, and their parents. And I'm not trying to judge. Again, ask yourself, have you watched one? The WNBA, the Merchant of Death. Now, Brittany Griner is good at basketball. In fact, you could probably argue she's the best female basketball player in the world. And if you're someone listening right now who's just foaming at the mouth, seething, because actually, no, the best WNBA player right now currently by the statistics is go fuck yourself on high. Don't you ever come around these parts keeping stats on the WNBA. Fuck do you think this is? I don't even need to know you exist. You keep stats on the WNBA. So that's one. And even if you want to say Brittany Griner is the greatest female basketball player in the world, we didn't just get back a pretty decent power forward. We didn't power bottom, power forward. I don't know. The terms are synonymous. I think I'm funny. I have no malice in my heart. Fuck it. Whatever. I still think this was a bad deal. I'm just saying the best female basketball player in the world. Who gives a shit? I don't care if it's the best basketball player in the world. I don't give a shit if LeBron was stuck in Russia. I still don't think it's a great trade. What does he bring into the table? Brittany, you better not have a goddamn criticism about America for the rest of your life. I want to see Brittany Griner at NRA conventions. I want to see her just lobbying for Halliburton. I want her to be so goddamn pro-American that her idea of a good time is grace, a good meal, and heading off to the rodeo for an evening of fun. I want her bookshelves to be lined with Bill O'Reilly books. I want her to criticize Colin Kaepernick. That is how American I need Brittany Griner to be for the rest of her life. Just to be grateful, because we made a trade for the greatest female basketball player of all time for the Merchant of Death. That, my friends, is something that exists in a gray area. Mormons are ugly Scientologists. That's very clear, cut, and dry. But unfortunately, some things in life are not that simple. Is it a fair trade? Basketball player? Arms dealer? I don't know. Let's see. Let's see how it all shakes out. And to be very clear, I get the argument that all of the people saying this was a terrible trade, the U.S. shouldn't have done this, we should have left Brittany there. I get it. When you hear those guys making that pitch, it just kind of feels a little racisty. It has a tinge of something judgy. It's like, hey, I don't give a fuck about that person who's the opposite end of the demographic I am. Who gives a shit, blah, 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 blah. I'm big and tough and I don't take no shit. I hear you. People saying that, I agree with you. But I need you to trust me and know that I am right when I say, maybe we didn't win the deal. All I'm saying is we might have gotten Vlade Divac. That's it. We might have came away from the trade with Vlade Divac, and the other team got, well, you know the rest of the story. But let's take it a step further. Because everyone has a take on the Brittany Griner thing. That's what's in the news. But I want to ask the tougher questions. Who thinks this is Britney's fault because I'm open to that argument. And don't get me wrong, I'm glad she's home. I'm genuinely glad the successful negotiation of an American has been accomplished and she's been released, and now she can return to her wife and live happily ever after and never have a negative word to say about the government ever fucking again. However, let's explore. Brittany Griner brought a weed pen into Russia. Now, Brittany Griner, greatest female basketball player in the WNBA, she makes $600,000 a year, which is obviously not enough to make ends meet. So she has to then, in the offseason, along with some of the other superstars that no one knows the name of, from the WNBA, go over to Russia to, play in showcase games, which is insane to me that there is a desire for that. Old, hard-drinking Russian men swigging vodka need to watch WNBA games. Sure. But in order to make ends meet, because $600,000 is not enough for Brittany Griner and other WNBA superstars, they travel to Russia pretty routinely. Now, it's probably not the case that Brittany started smoking weed in between her second to last Russian visit and the one that got her locked up. She's probably been smoking the whole time. I'm not making that claim based on anything that sounds controversial. It's just probably true. So, therefore, it is probably safe to assume Brittany has brought this weed pen with her to Russia before. Right? That's logical. Now, what is something you need to be aware of if you're Brittany Griner is this applies to anyone. Be aware of your surroundings. Think a little. Be accountable for yourself. Think a little. If I was Brittany Griner, if I was a talented lesbian at basketball, I would have some trepidation about going to Russia. They don't have the greatest track record. Ask Pussy Riot or Tattoo or any other lesbians they haven't thrown in a gulag yet in Russia. So I would already kind of be on edge. You know what I mean? But I get it. She's done it before. She needs the money. She's got to make ends meet. She doesn't want to go back to working a seasonal gig at Home Depot making $500,000 a year playing a game no one watches. I have to go to Russia to provide for my wife. So she goes and probably is allowed to bring her weed pen because whatever, tensions weren't that high. But if you're Brittany Griner, you have to realize on the flight over there, or even before you got on the plane, it seems like this Ukraine shit is getting kind of crazy. It seems like it might really pop off. Maybe I shouldn't go to Russia, but if that's just not an option and you really need that extra Russian money, maybe I shouldn't bring something I know to be illegal. Maybe I shouldn't bring contraband to the Russian airport. Maybe the oligarch that is sponsoring my pro showcase trip to Russia every time, maybe Vladimir Putin has beheaded him. Maybe my protection is gone. Who knows? It's Russia. All I'm saying is you should have a little accountability. If you don't want to get locked up and thrown in a Russian work camp, don't bring anything to Russia. Well, one, don't travel to Russia, but two, don't bring anything to Russia that would warrant you getting thrown to a Russian work camp. And I am glad she got released, but it seems like she knowingly did something she knew to be illegal, thinking she was privileged enough to allow it to happen. She thought, I'm the bee's knees lesbian here in Russia. They're not going to have any problem with this. And then she made a mistake, which we all do. I thought the sign earlier was offering transgender beer. Turns out it was a Vietnamese family that believed in the American dream. People make mistakes. Brittany thought, I'm special enough to do this. Shit, I'm in a Russian work camp. Now, I'm glad we got her out, but the cost of getting her out is we're giving up a guy that literally arms child soldiers. I'm just saying. Brittany Griner, you kind of, in a sense, because you so desperately needed that vape pen. You didn't even bring real gas. You smoking that stupid fucking vape bullshit. If you're gonna smoke, smoke big gas. Smoking big doinks. R.I.P. that really fat dude who hung out with Wiz Khalifa a little bit before he died. Big doinks. My point is, Brittany, because you needed to bring your vape pen, there are potentially hundreds of thousands of people that will now die because you have enabled the man who facilitated the transaction of machinery that executed thousands. You needed to bring some vape, and now some people are dead. Not to put it all on your shoulders. I'm just strict. This is obviously not the news. I am being hypothetical. I am right. Have a little accountability for what you're doing. And it's like you see countless examples of this shit in the Middle East, which I know usually that's not a good way to start, but this is actually specific and nuanced. Right now, the World Cup is still happening in Qatar or Qatar or however you want to call it. Who gives a fuck? It's an arid wasteland. Fuck the Middle East. Can we just say that? You know, I'm really fucking sick of white people like Ben Affleck pretending they've majored in Middle Eastern studies and having these very complex and hushed conversations about the intricacies of the culture. I don't give a fuck anymore. They keep blowing up rocks and making more sand. And that's just my, destructive aesthetic critique of the Middle East. That's saying nothing of people being thrown off buildings, stoned, or female genital mutilation. I just think, maybe fuck the Middle East. Can we just leave it alone? It is not a hospitable place. Those people are not hospitable to us. That's not to say a relationship can't be made, but to the relationships that can be made, come over here to America. Come emigrate. Come from the Middle East to America if you want to be here, but can we stop going over there? Can we stop accepting the invite of these Middle Eastern countries to come play a game of soccer that Americans still don't give a shit about? And take, for example, the American team played the Iranian team, and the Iranian team literally was pleading with American players, please throw the game. The government will kill our family if we lose. Can we stop going to the Middle East? Fuck it. All of it. Fuck all of their rules. Fuck it entirely. Fuck Sharia law. How about that? I'm on one. Now, at a different point in my life, earlier in my life, I didn't want to offend people. I know this might sound hard to believe, but I really try to be sensitive. I try to be respectful of every different type of belief. But, as I've gotten older, I've come to really shore up my mind, and I've decided I have no issue stating which ones are wrong. Take, for example, the ones that say you should stone people still, or dress like a living room curtain. Was that mean? Probably. I'm just saying. Yeah, and I'll criticize anybody. To be fair, this has nothing to do with race. I mean, I'll call it fair. I call a fair game. I call balls and strikes. You could take the dumb mix of Ireland and Northern Ireland, who were putting bombs in baby strollers over a difference in slightly different catechisms. That's retarded as well. That's not nearly as stupid as the ongoing conflict of the Middle East that we keep inserting ourselves into. But if I see a belief being enacted and that belief is wrong, you better believe I'm at the very least going to say that's stupid. I'm not going to just go along with it and let it keep happening. I'm not just going to keep participating in the World Cup and allowing all this shit to happen. Because let's look at journalist Grant Wahl. Grant Wahl was a soccer journalist, and that is a sad existence. However, he was kind of a hero, mildly, if you want to look at it that way. Probably closer to martyr, probably closer to moron, but let's not be disrespectful. This is not the news. I have no interest in accountability myself. Now, he was a soccer journalist, Grant Wahl, that is, who traveled to Qatar, bad idea, and when he first got there, had one of the Team USA Cup shirts on that had like the rainbow flag, like the color scheme in it to symbolize, of course, this was Joe Biden's great idea that we're going to march into the Middle East with a bunch of civilians armed in gay pride t-shirts into a inhospitable Sharia law-run country. And then Biden was like, maybe not a great idea. But those shirts still got printed and sold, motherfucker. It's still America. And this guy, Grant, who was going to Qatar to blog about soccer, again, wow, refused to take this t-shirt off because I'm a white guy and I have morals and stuff, and I'm not going to listen to you despite me traveling to your country, despite me coming to your home and telling you, nah, this is actually how it's going to happen. First of all, can you picture that? Could you imagine if you invited me to dinner at your house and I came over to dinner? I brought a bottle of wine, maybe some flowers. It looked like I was going to be a great dinner guest. And then before we started eating, I demanded everyone put on a hijab. That would seem a little uncouth, maybe not my place to do that. It's the same goddamn principle. If you are traveling to the Middle East because the Middle East is having an event that they're saying, come, watch, you should at least follow the rules of that place. If you're invited into someone's house and they say these are house rules, these are house rules. My argument on top of that would be the house rules are stupid and we should just stop going to this house. But if you're going to go, in the interest of just your safety, play by their rules. Who are these moral stances for? Well, it turns out at least one of these moral stances for Grant Wall was the fact his brother is gay. And his brother, who immediately posted a message following the unfortunate heart failure Grant Wall suffered when he collapsed and died randomly, not at all poisoned by the Qatar government, His brother, who is gay, put a message on Twitter saying, I 100% believe that my brother, Grant Wall, was murdered. He wore that shirt for me, yada, yada, yada. And then I do a little bit more digging. Turns out this guy, Grant, while he was over there at the World Cup, supposed to be blogging about soccer, decided to chime in on the Qatar immigration policy. And needless to say, he had some thoughts. And he shared them. He shared them because he thought, I'm white, I have a gay pride shirt on, and I won't take it off. I'm taking a stand. People want to hear what I have to say. And some of those people did want to hear what they have to say, some of those people being the Qatari government, and those people have subsequently not poisoned you to death, causing you to collapse of congestive heart failure. They did not poison you. You collapsed of congestive heart failure. Now, it's definitely possible he collapsed of congestive heart failure, but when there's literally a 3-story this dude had 3 strikes, and he struck out all 3 of them. He was in Qatar, given ample chance, and he kept striking out. He's at the airport, take the shirt off. No, I'm a hero. You're supposed to be blogging about soccer. Well, let's talk about your immigration policy. Dude, it is a shame you are dead. But let's have a little accountability. Is it not your fault? Let's not, I don't want to say that, but I mean, you're not completely without fault here. In the case of journalist Grant Wall dying in Qatar, his actions are not unrelated to his death, I would say, is a safe statement. I know it's not popular, but promoting accountability is not ever going to be popular. There's nothing fun about being accountable. In fact, it's probably something I say the most on this show. I have no interest in accountability. I'm not the news, but I'm right. But you got to have a little, especially when your life is on the line, especially when you are traveling somewhere else. House rules. If you're going to Russia as a lesbian who smokes weed, maybe, be on your toes. If you're going to the Middle East, maybe let's not wear all of the gay flag t-shirts and rant about how the immigration policy isn't the most progressive. You're in the Middle East. These people stone people and throw people off buildings. They are so frightened by the female form that they only allow their eyes to be visible. Muslims are so scared of the female body that they feel more comfortable if everyone walks around like a KKK member. Now, obviously, they don't understand the KKK reference, but that's because the Middle East has no history at all of ethnic differences leading to conflict. So, I would submit humbly, as I usually do, that this is a culture, a land, a people, a community that we need to stop telling ourselves has any fucking interest in us having any relationship with it. It is also, and I say this with much respect, stupid. Their entire culture is dumb and wrong. I don't want to upset anybody, and I used to in my life, try to be more sensitive. But as I've grown more confident in my beliefs, I've grown much more confident telling you yours are wrong. And I think most of the beliefs over there are stupid, dumb, and inaccurate. However, if I am there and the rules are that, you better believe I would be participating. I would wear whatever you need me to wear. Let's put on a turban, let's party. I'll drink non-alcoholic beer that you tricked fucking Bud Light into selling here at the World Cup. I'll do whatever. I won't let women dance or whatever or something. Maybe that's Mennonites. I don't know. But all I know is this. If I am in your house, I should be following your rules. And there's people just asking to get not poisoned by the Qatari government, if you know what I mean. Like, take, for example, British OnlyFans, British porn star Astrid Wet. I'll say that again because she probably needs this. Astrid Wet. I mean, my goodness gracious, can the British women be more culturally, aesthetically unattractive? From name, physical conception, dentistry history, all of it. Astrid Wet? Sir Conan Francis Doyle is a sexier name than Astrid Wet. But anyway, Astrid Wet, who's the number one OnlyFans star in Britain, she's also at the World Cup, and she keeps, posing, kind of clothed, semi-nude, essentially what I'm trying to say is not in a hijab, in Qatar, and posting these pictures. And she's complaining about the death threats she's receiving. Bitch, you are in Qatar. They don't like this. Regardless of if you think it's right or wrong, those people are scared of the woman body. They're scared of the female form. Who's to say why? Because ultimately, if you go back in history enough, Islam was really written by a guy locked up who was upset he couldn't fuck more than he wanted to. Because most religions go back to that. Most religions you can trace back to a guy who wanted to fuck either more or someone he wasn't supposed to, or someone he wasn't supposed to in a way he wasn't supposed to anymore. That's really what you can pin most religions to. Obviously, Mormons, Islam is kind of the same. Sorry, I'm just kind of firm in that belief. But the point of it is if I am in a country where that is the law of the land, I'm covering up. I'm putting on a sweater. I'm putting on a hijab. I'm not taking my shirt off and posting a picture with my location of it. I mean, seriously, what's more antagonistic? What Astrid Wet is doing by revealing her gorgeous tits to the people of Qatar who want to kill her for it? Or with Charlie Hebdo? Which one was pushing the boundaries a little more? Drawing Muhammad or questioning the law of the land and showing tits to people who will then want to go out and bomb stuff? That might have been irresponsible of me to say, but I have no interest in accountability, but you should. So should Astrid. So should Brittany. So should Elton John. Yeah, how about that for a left turn? Elton John announced he's leaving Twitter because he can't stand to see it become a place of misinformation and hate. Can I ask, who the fuck? I've been on Twitter for a while. I indulge in some of the far more out there online bits of content. I have not once, literally in my life, seen anyone tweet the N-word. I really haven't. I mean, I've seen, obviously, rappers or, within the appropriate hip-hop or African-American context, which is, of course, another hot-button issue. Everyone keeps blaming Elon and Twitter. Since Elon has taken over Twitter, there's been a uptick in the N-word being tweeted by everyone for some reason. I haven't seen it, obviously, but a bunch of people, mainly celebrities like Elton John, have. Which makes me ask the question, who have you been following, Elton John? Why are you following David Duke on Twitter? You know what I mean? I don't follow him, so I don't see all these tweets that are containing misinformation and hate speech, but you must be seeing it. Why is that? Why do you follow it? Now you have to leave because it's become so much, because Elon Musk is taking control of Twitter, and now there's just a deluge of N-words that has just become too much for you to bear. It's become much more than the normal amount that you could take up until just now. I don't buy it. Have a little accountability. In fact, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to go out on a ledge right here, right now. To quote techno songs from the 90s right here, right now. I think all of these people bitching about Twitter's become this fascist, blah, 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 hate speech, none of it is actually happening at all. It's just the thing to think right now about Elon. I actually think all these people like Michael Ian Black, Elton John, who are just up in arms over what Twitter's become, I think these are really just white people tripping over an African American being successful enough to buy and take over Twitter. There, boom, mic drop. African American Elon Musk buys Twitter. Liberal whites who are rich get mad about it. Liberal white people are pissed off an African American bought Twitter and he's trying to run it the best way he knows how. And I think that's upset a lot of good white closeted liberal racists. That is my take for the day. White people just mad an African American getting money, getting successful, buying a business, telling you you're allowed to actually say whatever you want as long as it's not illegal or causes harm to others. And people are freaking out about that. I say you're racist. Have a little accountability for that. I would also sincerely like to meet the fan of Elton John who also freely uses the N-word on social media. I mean, take a minute to just think about who that person must be. That's a person you maybe not want to have, a close friendship with, but boy, would you like to meet him once. Yeah, man, I just like to let it fly, big fan of NASCAR, don't like the colors, and I love Benny and the Jets. That is someone I would like to, at the very least, meet. That's someone who's at least accountable to themselves. That is someone who knows themselves to thy own selves be true. And I would also like to announce that Ellen DeGeneres has definitely murdered her DJ. Allegedly. Woof. Caught that at the nick of time. So the guy, and this is just, fun little story for you as we wrap up the episode. If you've ever watched an episode of Ellen, she is the woman who dresses like she also was drafted into the NBA, who would interview people, mostly celebrities, heavily medicated, or just every now and then, Ellen DeGeneres would interview security guards from the Mandalay Bay who were the only people to see the gunman from a mass shooting. Sometimes she'll interview that guy. Sometimes Ellen's the show that gets the guy who explains what happened at the mysterious Las Vegas mass shooting. That's a real thing that happened. If you think I'm losing my mind, definitely, but this is also true. The mysterious Las Vegas shooting with Stephen Paddock that no one really knows anything about still. The only time the only security guard to have seen Stephen Paddock alive made any type of public statement after, of course, going missing for a period of time and having a lot of people concerned, after accepting a gag payment from MGM Grand to not speak about the incident at all, this guy pops up on Ellen to explain exactly, with diagram, to daytime television, this is what happened, stop asking questions. Ellen sometimes does that also. And on that show, which is no longer a thing because she was such a bully that the show got canceled, she had a DJ. She had essentially the guy Paul from David Letterman who wore the glasses and had a keyboard. She had her equivalent, a cool dude who wore like a pilgrim hat and was like DJing, kinda. He was a happy-go-lucky fella, and why wouldn't he be? He had a great job. He was a DJ on the Ellen DeGeneres show. How hard could life be? Well, it turns out, actually, it could be pretty difficult to work with Ellen. I know she seems nice and friendly, but some of her exes are dead. She will reduce you to tears, and if any of this is rubbing you the wrong way, even if you're her DJ on the show, even if you're a guy who just bought a $4 million home in Los Angeles, who 48 hours before being found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, posted a video of him with his family dancing in his brand new home. If you don't like how we do business here at the Ellen DeGeneres show, you gotta go, okay? There's no special treatment here. There's no special treatment at the Ellen DeGeneres show. There's no special treatment if you're Brittany Griner. There's no special treatment if you're a journalist who has a gay brother. There's no special treatment if you're a British porn star whose best attempt at a sexy name was Astrid Wet. There is no special treatment for any of you. But what there should be a little more of, and there'd probably be less issues for all of you, some of you might not be dead or facing extended periods in jail, a little accountability. And you will find that by exercising a little more self-accountability, problems that arise in your life will be more cut and dry, clean and simple. Hopefully, it will be so clear that most problems that pop up in your life, if you are practicing levels of self-accountability, it will be so clear to you, the solution will be so obvious, it will be as simple as saying Mormons are ugly Scientologists.